After more than 3,000 episodes and 2,400 celebrity interviews, that's a wrap for the Ellen DeGeneres show. The daytime TV star telling The Hollywood Reporter, as great as the show is and as fun as it is, it's just not a challenge anymore. NBC News senior media reporter Dylan Byers joins me now. Dylan, Ellen's saying her 19th season next year will be her last. What do you know about her decision to go off air?
Yeah, well, look, on the one hand, this is something that she's been talking about wanting to do for quite some time. She says she had to be convinced to stay the last time she re-upped her contract. And look, she has been in this game for a long time. There are no doubts about that. At the same time, I think the trajectory of the show and the controversy of the last year or so has made this something that is probably a less desirable job for her. So you have first allegations of a toxic workplace, something that really consumed her and consumed the show over the course of the last year. And then I think as significantly, you have the effect of that, which was a very steep ratings drop, more than 40%, which basically brought her audience from about 2.5 million on average to 1.5 million on average. And if you are someone like Ellen, who is a cultural icon, who does have the influence that she's used to having, interviewing these big name guests and celebrities, to go from 2.5 million, where you're sort of in the company of a Kelly Ripa, and then to go down to 1.5, where you're in the company of a Maury Povich, doesn't feel like a great trajectory. And so I think now clearly was the time to sort of back out.
Let's talk about the controversy from last year a little bit more, Dylan. For people who aren't so familiar, last July, BuzzFeed published a report where anonymous former employees accused the show's executive producers of creating a toxic workplace. Ellen started the season of her show with an apology to her staff. I'm sure it plays in some way. Do you have a sense of how much that might have just kind of pushed her over the edge and said, I'm out?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, a lot of those accusations were leveled against the sort of executive producer level and the folks who are sort of her direct reports. But at the end of the day, there's also a question of, well, if she's leading the ship, she sets the tone for the culture. And I think there is a widespread sense, certainly in Hollywood, that this sort of, be kind, life is good, life is rosy, everything's about generosity, doesn't exactly track with the Ellen that people knew, and certainly her staffers that people knew behind the scenes. And so, look, I think at the end of the day, you're looking at a combination of factors. One, you're under scrutiny. Your reputation has taken a big hit. Two, as a result of that, you've had to fire a lot of your top talent. Three, you've seen your ratings fall off a cliff. And I think all of that combines to make it not as much fun as it used to be. And as she said, probably not as much of a challenge as it used to be. I think the heyday of that show is behind her, and I think she recognizes that, and it's time to move on to something else.
Dylan, it's funny because the way you describe it, no doubt it's probably not as much fun anymore. But I wonder if the opposite of what she's saying is true, that it's almost too much of a challenge now that you're up against those ratings and the maybe perception that you're not as much of the be kind lady as people thought you were. And maybe that's part of the problem, too, right? That it is too much of a challenge to overcome at this point in the game. Whatever it is, one more season of Ellen, and that's it for that show.
That's right. And by the way, I think that diagnosis is entirely right, Allison. I do just think it's less about the challenge. It's less about whether or not it's actually something she enjoys.
Yeah, for sure. Dylan, always great to have you on. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.